Entry on BBC4 last night on Prince, which has been should be up there for a couple of weeks as well. It's worth having a look at actually. I actually stuck with Prince largely because and played a track off Rainbow Children, largely because it popped up when I was on the train, I think, on the iPod, and it's the track Family Name of Rainbow Children. I think it's a massively underrated record. This actually, really one of his best, I think.
You're a bit out of camera here, Jim.
I'm a bit out of camera. Sorry. Anyway, so another bit more Prince from a few years before this, Rainbow Children.
And then certainly somebody who Prince seems to be kind of modelling his current look on, and who I also know was massively influential on Prince, and that's Sly from Sly and the Family Stone. And this is a new, it's just a single CD, but it's lots of tracks that have not been released very many times before, kind of off 7 inches off Sly's record label that he had around the 1969, 1970. So for people who like that sort of sound of Family Affair, There's a Riot Going On, If You Want Me to Stay, all of that, basically all the tracks are kind of built around this particular drum machine. And Sly somehow makes something which normally would sound like a kind of cheesy sort of bossa nova thing that you might expect to see in a pub. He adds some incredible kind of funk vibes to that. So this is great. It sounds really, really nice as well.
Great stuff.
It's called I'm Just Like You.
So going for classic funk, then had almost kind of the obligatory dose of P-Funk, and had Funkadelic off Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome, which is from 77, I think, or 70. Yeah, classic. Love P-Funk. Love.
And then we had some very contemporary, up to the minute version of a UK take on funk. A band called Jungle, who've just been, they were one of the Mercury Prize nominees. They didn't win. But a track called Busy Earning, which, in fact, although this looks like it is the band, in fact this is the dance troupe who appear in the video, and the band look nothing like this. Maybe the band thinks that they might like to look like this, but they don't, in fact. But great track.
What does the band look like?
They look like
a band.
A couple of guys on synths.
Oh, okay. Then I played a track off this record by Taste of Honey, which turns out both of us have been sleeping on, really, because obviously this album's famous for the track Boogie Oogie Oogie, and the whole album's actually produced by the Mizell brothers, and it's got some great songs on it. And played the track World Spin, also quite unusual for its time, where you had a woman bass player and a female guitarist as well. There weren't many records in that time with that kind of lineup. Very nice record.
Very good, definitely.
And certainly worth going beyond the first track of.
Sort of staying in a sort of dance music vein, I've been really getting into the sound of Larry Levan, who was a DJ mixer from the late 70s into the 80s, who used to play out at the Paradise Garage in New York. And this is a track that he remixed by a UK artist called David Joseph, and it's called You Can't Hide. And it has just a classic sort of breakdown, and has that moment when sort of electronic dance music was just appearing, and this kind of sort of dubby vibe was going on as well. Really nice.
Very good. Then I think we might have another break actually, but then I moved into this. Oh, I think we're losing something here. Okay. Then went in a slightly different direction, also kind of from that kind of same time. Something about the keyboard sound on the on the band chat reminded me of the Manhattan Project. Which was a weird one for Wayne Shorter. It was kind of in between his kind of, obviously kind of more post-Weather Report, kind of almost like kind of fusion kind of mode, but before he obviously got into his recent incredible quartet with John Patitucci and co. And this is an album, I think it was a one-off project. I think they only did one gig with Wayne Shorter, Michel Petrucciani, Stanley Clarke, Lenny White and Gil Goldstein and Pete Levin. play the track Nefertiti. It's a kind of weird record actually, because it's got quite heavy kind of electronic keyboard sounds on it. But the track Nefertiti is very nice actually. It has some great playing from Stanley Clarke on there as well.
And Michel Petrucciani.
Yeah, magician. Yeah, and I think there was a video or a VHS video around at the time of that.
Something about that cover made me think of, and the kind of New York
Getting quite
vibe.
spurious here.
Very spurious. This is the new 10-inch by David Bowie, the lead track of his recent compilation album called Sue, or In a Season of Crime, which just is extremely uncommercial but exciting filmic, well, you kind of sort of almost stage show.
Almost stage shows, yeah.
With an incredible brass arrangement, and very kind of jazzy with this kind of almost drum and bass kind of live drum thing going on, and Bowie sounding very theatrical. Great tune.
It's very hard to describe. Actually.
Very hard to describe, but just
very interesting track.
nothing at all like his last album, which is how Bowie normally is.
Yeah, definitely. And something about the kind of it sounds almost like a weird show tune. And that reminded me of Paul Motion on Broadway that I haven't had in the box. And this was the first of a whole series of records that Paul Motion has made covering show tunes, really. And this album has his trio on it with Joe Lovano and Bill Frisell, which is one of the most amazing kind of long-serving jazz groups around, really. And also has Charlie Hayden on it, who obviously recently passed away, on bass. And played the track Someone to Watch Over You on it. Kind of, almost like kind of deconstructs the song and puts it back together again. This whole series are great, actually, particularly the first three.
John was talking about Paul Motion's Motion,
yeah.
Yeah, his kind of minimal drum style, and how he kind of has become, almost has been playing less and less and less the older we got. And it kind of just put me in mind of this track, this album. This is a new album that I'm sure no one has shown before, because it's a Bristol UK-based band called Ray, led by a singer whose name I'm not sure, can't remember what her name is, but it's basically her on guitar, there's sax, bass and drums, and they have a kind of Sid Arthur connection. They're sort of very much part of this new UK sound, and we listened to a track called Foreign Lands, highly recommended, just very fresh, original music.
Almost sounded like a kind of traditional folk song or a kind of sea shanty or something.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting kind of sound. We were moving into the quiet zone by this time.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, since the last session, Joe Samples passed away, and I played the track Ballad for Joe Lewis of this Best of Crusaders album, which is just a beautiful track, actually. Great kind of electric piano solo on it, and just beautifully put together, really.
And has been sampled by Nightmares on Wax, I think.
Well, yeah, we think it was somebody on the No Wax.
On the Heads
first No
triple
Wax
album.
Yeah.
And just staying with that kind of chilled vibe, we played Didn't I? Derondo. I have to say thank you to Champ Sound for turning me onto this track. Very sort of ethereal, beautiful, sweet harmonies, very kind of authentic, kind of raspy but also falsetto singing from Derondo. Great track.
Then, still staying in a kind of chill zone, really, went for second, I didn't really realise this when I put it on, but the second Tom Bell production of the night, and from Pick of the Litter by the Spinners, and went for the track Love or Leave. Spinners, of course, had Felipe Wynne as the lead singer, who went on to join Funkadelic and sung on Knee Deep and various other things as well. I think this might have been, the last one that Tom Bell did with the Spinners, but I might be wrong there. Classic kind of Philly soul, really.
Very good.
Sounds gorgeous.
I guess a bit of a blue-eyed soul man here, Daryl Hall, A very kind of rather odd album that he did, produced by Robert Fripp in 1980, and yeah, it's just a strange kind of tugging of two different styles, but somehow they really complement each other. And the track Babs and Babs actually does kind of go off in many different directions.
It's mental.
And had a bit, was reminding us a bit of Todd Rundgren as well. But yeah, this I think you can pick up very cheap. Particularly the first side, I would say, is really worth listening to.
And towards the end has an amazingly distinctive bit of Robert Fripp.
Yes.
Kind of guitar sound on there.
Yeah.
I think Mark showed some Weldon Irvine on his Faces.
Perhaps, didn't even know you'd watched that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But so anyway, but I played, I think probably the shortest track I've ever played as a session, which is a track called Softly on here, which is Weldon Irvine Spirit Man, which was the one that came out after the one you showed, I think, on the on RCA. Has We Getting Down and all kinds of, and The Power and the Glory and all kinds of tracks. But I played the very short 37-second track called Softly, which seemed to be a good way of closing my contribution to the session.
Yeah, and then my final contribution was some Matching Mole from their first album, and the track Instant Pussy, which was written by Robert Wyatt, features Robert Wyatt doing some very strange scatty vocals, but also kind of some sort of simmering explosive drumming and a very melodic bass line. Just really, yeah, again, it's such original music. And Bill McCormick making his second appearance on the bass.
Yeah, that's quite unusual.
And that was it.
That was it. It was a good session.
The session's been brought to you by Sheep's Cheese.
Sheep's Cheese and
Codeine.
That's right. Which I'm taking from my foot, I have to say. This is not recreational codeine or anything like that. And loo roll as well.
Yeah, loo roll and red wine.
And red wine.
Yeah.
And ginger tea.
Yes, fresh ginger tea, beautiful.
Very good.
So it's very cold here in the UK.
Yeah.
But
and it won't be as long. There won't be as big a gap for the next session.
No.
I don't think.
So that's all from us, folks.
Yeah.
Please leave some comments.
Please, yeah. And if we don't, well, we might speak before Christmas, but not have a good Christmas if we don't.
Okay.
Take care.